Hi, I'm Terena, and this is Modern Day Made, a podcast for the ambitious, the material, and the real. For those who've seen behind the curtain and want in on their own terms. We've seen the hype machines, and we understand the work needed to facilitate them. But walking in truth, protecting our integrity, and designing the lives of our dreams matters a lot more than listening to a boring podcast that only serves to make you feel behind. So we won't be doing that over here. Here's to stripping back the cocoon and taking up space in a way that feels cultivated and earned. What is up, and welcome to the first episode of Modern Day Made. I'm so excited to be here. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad that you're here. So for the past decade, I positioned myself as a quiet observer of the successful and the rising. And one thing I've noticed about January is this. It's not chaotic at the top, it's continuous. What we read as momentum is often something far more deliberate, a lived-in rhythm. Carefully timed announcements, sustained outputs, milestones that arrive looking organic and are anything but accidental. New series launches, press moments, book signings, weddings, births, you name it, all surfacing with a remarkable composure. January isn't chaotic at the top, it's continuous. To the untrained eye, it looks effortless. And for those who know, and for my listeners, it's a well-oiled machine. One built by people thinking in seasons, not weeks. 5-year arcs rather than fortnightly reinventions, which is why January can feel a little strange if you're watching from the outside. Because if you're not inside a machine, January can feel like you're standing in front of one, watching it move and asking yourself, am I supposed to be moving like that too? But here's a distinction that changed how I think about this season. There's a difference between momentum and rhythm. Momentum pushes, rhythm carries. Momentum often comes from a certain kind of pressure. Rhythm comes from alignment. And when you start to notice that difference, it becomes a lot easier to detach yourself from the constant striving and quiet panic that January can induce. Because culture still leaves room for spectacle and scandal, something erupts, trends get memed, shared by millions, and then fades. But what remains are the voices and brands that are built for longevity. Which means the real question in January isn't how fast can I move, it's what rhythm can I genuinely sustain? January also carries something else that people rarely talk about. It's the quiet form of social comparison that almost feels physical. You open your phone and suddenly everyone has a reset. A new routine, aesthetic, relationship announcement, business announcement. If your life is in a slower season and you're genuinely in your winter, it can feel like you're failing at merely existing. But here's something that genuinely changed the way that I experienced January. Here's the real truth, the real unfiltered truth. A lot of what we're seeing isn't January energy. It's December preparation. Pre-shot content, pre-written captions, pre-approved partnerships, brand campaigns that were planned months ago, new era announcements that have been sitting in a notes app for over 6 months. So when you feel behind, remember this. You're comparing your real-time January to someone else's scheduled reveal. And those are running on two very different timelines. Signal versus noise. So how do we know whether a decision is actually yours or just noise dressed as clarity? Here's the filter I use. 2 simple questions. First, what season am I actually in? If you're in winter, recovering, rebuilding, processing, forcing spring will only create resentment. If you're in spring, energized, open, curious, ignoring that momentum was the opportunity you were meant to jump on. So the first step is honesty. Just name the season you're in. Then the second question, is this signal or noise? Signal usually feels like a quiet interest. Curiosity, a grounded pull towards something. Noise feels like urgency, comparison, the feeling that you need to act quickly so that people take you seriously. Learning to know the difference between those two will save you years. Hear it from me because I have been through many a metamorphosis. Learning the difference between those two will save you years. Discernment doesn't always look like being productive. Sometimes it looks like resting without explaining yourself, learning without announcing it. Building privately, saying no more often than you say yes. But that quiet discipline has a very specific kind of power because January might be loud, but clarity rarely is. So before you rush into reinvention this year, try asking yourself these questions. Not who should I become this year, but what is actually mine to build? Thank you so much for listening to the first episode of Modern Day Made.